Hi. This video is part of a build log series. I'm building motorized shoes that you'll wear while you play a virtual reality game that keep you in the same spot as you walk, like a treadmill, allowing you to walk infinitely in the game. For now, I call them VR shoes, or Omni shoes. In the second to last video, we saw that a sprocket I made broke under the stress of moving my body weight. In the last video, I talked about how I would solve that issue. In this video, I show the result. Here you see the old sprocket and the new sprocket. The new sprocket has a lot more material, which kept it from breaking when I tested it out. The new sprocket has a bar that goes through it, instead of the hexagonal shaped standoff. The sprockets and some spacers slide onto the bar, as you can see here. This actually turned out to be a simpler solution than the one I previously had, so I'm kind of glad that the other sprocket broke. Like I said, these sprockets held up just fine after about 10 minutes of testing them out. I made some other improvements to the design. Remember how I mentioned that I'm using threaded rods to hold the omni-sphere rows together? You can see a couple of the threaded rods here. The rods hold everything really well, but if anything is misaligned, then that misalignment is held in place by the threaded rods. So I switched out the nozzle on my 3D printer for the smallest one I have, which is 0.25 millimeters for the nozzle diameter. And I printed out some small spacers that fit in between the parts of the omni-sphere row. Then, instead of threaded rods, I used smooth 3mm rods. The result is this. The smooth 3mm rods slide in between all the parts, with spacers in between the parts to keep everything spaced properly. This way the parts can slide slightly if anything is misaligned or out of place, and the assembly is much easier than with the threaded rod because I don't have to use a guide. The other improvements I made were around tensioning the chains. Here you can see some spacers I'm using to slightly raise the gearbox so that the chain that goes from the gearbox to the omnispheres has a little bit more tension. Here it is, all put back together with the improvements to the spacers here. Now this isn't springy anymore. Spacers here so that this chain is much more taut, not loose. And works well. New sprockets. I put my weight on this thing and manually moved the motor, and the sprockets held up. That's good. Last thing is to fix this loose chain. To fix this loose chain, I just need to spread the rows out a little bit more so that the chain is taut. To test that out, I've printed these out. You can see there's 3 holes on each side. I will screw the rows into these. The spacing between the 3 holes on each side is a little bit greater for this test piece than it is right here, so it should pull the chain apart a little bit more. And if it's not enough, I'll just make another test piece and keep going until I get the right spacing. Here the rows are on the test pieces. The chain is still loose, so I need to increase the length of the test pieces a bit until the chain is taut. Made some more slightly larger pieces. Chain is good now. We're good to go. That's it for this video. Lots of improvements. I'm happy with the design. I feel like it's all coming together. Next time, I'm going to design the rest of the shoe. So, thanks for watching. If you feel like it, leave a like and subscribe.